a lot has happened when it comes to predict to commit, Jordan. We've already talked a lot about guys that you've added, guys that I've added, and you brought up a great idea last week, I thought, to start using the class calculator to take a deeper look at who it is that we have on our team. And, I've been bragging a little bit over the last couple of weeks because I've had more guys in volume than you. But I want to call out who you already have in the class. Quarterback Jared Curtis, defensive back Jordan Smith, edge rusher Kamari Brooks, linebacker Shadarius Tootle, and defensive lineman Carter Lucky. That's 5 commits. That's a composite team score of 119.60. We'll get into what you have coming up here in a second, but how are you feeling about the team that you have right now?
Feeling pretty good. I think especially when you know that you got a few other coals in the fire, and like we mentioned, may not even be done this week. So it's one of those, again, you'll probably wind up beating me when it's all said and done, but I'm pretty pleased. When we decided to start doing this segment, I was like, man, I'm gonna get dominated doing this every single week. Ben's gonna be all over it, but I fared okay, and I like what we've done to this point.
I mean, there have been a couple of opportunities that I've taken to kind of flex my info muscles, I guess, in certain opportune spots, which was unfair probably, but nature of the game. But the guy, I mean, look, you got the quarterback in the class. I think that holds more weight than one commit or any team score total would be able to do. I mean, I think that you got arguably, like I said earlier in the show, maybe the most important guy on the defensive side, arguably the two most important guys on the defensive side, because I don't think we're talking enough about Jordan Smith or Kamari Brooks. So 2 really, really good pickups by you. And I feel like you had to get the Jordan, right? Like you got the Jordan on your team. And so that alone was a big pickup for you. On my team, I have 8 guys committed in the class. And those 8 players are, if I get it pulled up here for those watching on YouTube, Justice Fitzpatrick, offensive lineman Ekeneg Boko, running back Jay Lamar, defensive back Zach Fort, wide receiver Ryan Mosley, not outside linebacker, interior offensive lineman Graham Houston, interior offensive lineman Zyke Helton, and defensive lineman Corey Howard. That's 8 commits with a total of 165.58. So I have a little bit of comfort zone to work with here, but you're going to be getting one of my favorite players in the entire recruiting cycle on Thursday if my information holds true. So I think that you're in a good spot there. I think that I probably have one that we're adding here at the end of the week too. I think that you'll have one early next week. So I think it still remains to be seen. I like where I'm at in both volume and in team total. But I think, if my mock class stands true, I think it would be maybe 10-8 or 11 or 10-9 or 11-9. And then I did not have James Johnson in my mock class. And I think that there's still a chance that James Johnson could tip that over this. So I think it could still get interesting here, Jordan.
Yeah, I feel pretty good just from a competitive standpoint. And yeah, there's no rooting situations. We don't root for teams or we don't root for guys. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I am rooting for James Johnson to land at Georgia just because that would be the big fish that would really help me in this competition. If Georgia winds up getting James Johnson, that's good news for Jordan's team and the predict to commit.
Just going through our teams in general, just as a refresher for everybody at home, I've mentioned obviously the 5 that you already landed: Curtis, Lucky, Smith, Brooks, and Tootle. Mark Bowman, Jared Smith, Vodney Cleveland, and Tico Crittenden are the only ones that are, I would consider, losers at this point in time. But again, you never know. These things could potentially change. I'm feeling good about where you're at with Tyler Atkinson, PJ Dean, Craig Dandridge, Caden Prothrow. So you've got a few there. And then, like you said, if James Johnson goes your way, if Derek Cooper goes your way, it could start getting real interesting for me. And Malachi Lee, for that matter, it could start getting real interesting really quick. On my team, I've my misses so far: Jackson Cantwell, Peyton Dyer, Heard he might be playing his high school football out in California as well for his senior year. Interesting in that he committed to Southern Cal. Whitley Cadeau, defensive line. Tyron Wortham, I'm putting in the loser category because he did actually end up flipping, but we'll see. I still think that one could get interesting. Don't feel great about where I'm at with Malcolm Gaston or Ernest Rankins, but Chase Calicut, I feel like Georgia's in a really good spot for. Tyreek Green, I feel like Georgia's in a really, really good spot for. Valdon Sone, Brett Colajay are two that I had in my mock class, and I think that things could trend well for Georgia here coming up as well. So there's a lot still to happen. We're not going to make a new predict to commit this week, but I'm not ruling out the possibility that I just spring one on us randomly at some point later on in the recruiting cycle to serve my own benefit.